Today I'll be talking about self-deception. The Torah teaches us that humanity's capacity for self-deception is to negate reality, which is the he side of it, the male side of it, and to build sustenance around a vacuum is the she side of it. So the more we are dealing from the masculine wound of denial, cognitive dissonance, whatever it is, the more we'll find that we're rejecting, pushing, aggressing, kind of like penetrating the all into like the one, like getting one-track mind. And the more that we're sort of like spreading ourselves too thin, and there's chaos, and there's a sense of being out of control and not having ground to stand on. That's sort of the female wound. So how do we get into the, like, how do we, as all this is happening, how do we find our way in? Like, where's the opening? And it's in our thoughts, our speech, our actions. The letters of thought are not the same letters as speech. The letters of speech are not the same letters of thought. The letters of speech and thought are not the same letters of action. So each one is built out of different letters. The form of the letters takes actions. The potential of the letters takes thoughts. And the actual manifestation of the letters is the speech. Self-pity is a way that we also have the access point. It's going to give us an escape from reality, and it's going to release endorphins. So there's for sure a secondary benefit for feeling like crap. I don't have to be more than crap. It's kind of like I'm getting away with it. And also the whole world revolves around me. Everybody knows I'm crap. Anything to that extent. How do we do this? By becoming needy, feeling entitled, there's not enough, constantly looking out for something more. Also complaints, finding that everything's wrong around us, we don't like the situation, people are bothering us, sounds are bothering us, body parts are bothering us. Blaming, when we find that we're so upset with somebody and if only they would be different, we would be happier. Making excuses, where we go to extreme lengths to kind of convince people that we didn't do anything wrong, or we find elaborate reasons to make the mistake again, to kind of glorify the mistake, to say this is the right way, even if it's not. And in doing this work, of looking at what's causing us to deceive ourselves. For example, we're a man by negating reality is when he starts to be too hard on the woman and not allowing her to be part of the process. And she might understand the cycles, but get too cyclical and not have anything that's sturdy. So what do I let consume my life? For a man, it would be, what am I aiming at? I don't mean to get crude, but like the penis, the pee, the semen, what am I aiming at? Is it this attachment to outcome? Is it to release the tension? Is it to win? And for the woman, what do I let my life consume? What is becoming part of, and we all have the feminine and the masculine inside of us, but to whatever you're dealing with, you might want to look at it one way or the other. What do I let my life chew on? Like, this part is for friends, and that part is for hobbies, and that part is for self-care, and that part is for God, and that part is for myself, and that part is for my relationship, and that part is for work. And like, what do I let consume my life? What is my nurture womb energy going toward? And a man, what is my penetrative energy going toward? What is the space that I'm filling up with stuff versus which space am I aiming at? So these are two sides of the same coin. And it's different ways to look at it, whatever feels more accessible. Now, in doing so, we're all going to face the void. When we look at what we're aiming at, we look at the one who's aiming. We look at how it's not here yet. We look at the lack. We look at the giving messages, getting messages that the past and future self might find a way to agree. So it's like the void is where the past self can arise, our memories, and also where the future self can arise, our imagination. So the void is not necessarily the scary place, except if we're scared of ourselves. So we have to adjust our standards for accounting for others. We're giving messages to the universe about what we want in the void. When we access the void, we are giving messages to the universe about what we want, and we're also receiving messages about what the universe has in store for us, what we might call destiny, alignment, electromagnetism, how we're tuning ourselves, all of the words. But we're definitely going to have to use the thoughts, the speech, and the actions. These are different ways. Peace of mind, peace of body, and of course, to be a carrier of creative speech that actually makes a difference, to be able to communicate. So we start to find that in the periods of where there's the big squeeze happening, the void, where it's like, am I going to disappear into nothingness, or am I going to become everything? There is that liminal space. That is when we start to surf. Once we kind of arrive into that, all we have to do is kind of think about what we want, speak about what we want, or do some action, and it automatically starts. And we can access all three. One baby step in all three goes a long way. So for me, for example, not being allowed to have alone time versus, and then my aim is I want alone time, I want to be alone, versus just having the space, trusting the space. So I could be myself, I can let the space consume me, I can take in the medicine of the moment. So my feminine end can sort of relax into whatever's going on and know that I have an inner space. And the external can be like looking at where I could feel more alone is maybe turn off a sound. Maybe there's a humming sound, or maybe it's too much. Then another thing I'm working with is if I feel so unwanted that being flexible to be likable seems impossible, I can look at where the thoughts are, speech, and action. So for example, I said the speech is the sound coming in. I can adjust sounds, or I can ask someone to turn off something. I can say I need some quiet time, or can we just hang out without talking? And that might help me to feel alone time, like the previous example. I can think about how inside my inner world there's peace and calm. I could reflect on, with my thoughts, on peaceful thoughts. And of course, with the action is I could actually go and maybe let some light in, maybe like rest my head for a little. So there's physical thing, all three ways, physical, speech, and thoughts that we can actually use the letters to form in this liminal space of the void. And with the next example I gave is feeling so unwanted that being flexible to be likable seems impossible. It's like how low and humiliating it would have to be to adjust myself so that the person will be happy with me. The best way to do that is to actually use my words to say I'm feeling really low about myself, and I'm projecting that you're upset with me. Is there something going on? Another way is to think, what are some areas in which I may not be giving myself enough credit, and the old familiar shame or guilt that I was raised with might be coming in. And of course the action is move. Raise my arms, lower them, touch my toes, just sort of move the energy, go from one side, spin, do some stretches, do some wrist mobility, squinch the toes up, and I say, wow, I like being alive. I like coming back and checking in and liking myself, so wanting my own company, and then not necessarily being so affected about other people's company. So all these ways are just examples of accessing the portal to the void, to get out of self-deception, self-pity. I also would say that in the thoughts, I reflect back on people who I thought didn't like me or want me. I'm thinking of an ex-boyfriend or of a camp counselor, and how they really did love me. And they didn't want to be selfish in the worst of it. They didn't make it all about them. They were going through their own life. They weren't very focused on what I was going through. They were just there, their presence. And And they saw my selfishness as me being needy, complaining, blaming, excuses. Like that whole style was because I felt stupid. I felt weak in my temptations. I knew what was right and I couldn't do it. I had injuries. I had like pain in my wrist. I had my thumb. I had a sense of shame about being a drug for people, being the release for them, escaping my pain, being the place that others could escape their pain. I was devoting so much of myself to a separating experience, like a other. And even releasing the horrible, in a way that's like an undercover prostitute. So releasing those horrible thoughts about myself that I wasn't worthy of love because I made those decisions to allow things to be done to me. So if you think about writings, and it's called hagiography, in Hebrew we call it ketuvim, writings. It's like when there's like the Victorians, the winners. I meant victors, not Victorians. The victors write the story. The winners write history. So it's like I get to still be here means I'm a winner. So the writing I get to do now, or the stories I get to say, or the actions I get to take, show me that in my specific cycles, I am able to become one again from these separating experiences. And this is also a way to speak it, is to learn to say these things happened to me, or I did these things, but recognizing the one speaking is not the one who's doing it now. So, and finally, actions is being around people who listen to their self. Even, I or others, sometimes we listen to recordings of ourselves to see how we come across, so that we're not just always throwing ourselves onto people and peeing all over their minds and their ears and their bodies with our thought, speech, and action, And also, like, allowing there to be more silence when I'm sharing, when I'm teaching. Maybe I'll even do a silent meditation at some point here, just like a few little pieces, and then silence together and learn about ourselves that way, the self. And that's really like from my name. My name means Shena. My name is Shena. It means change or cycle, as one of the meanings. There's a lot of roots to my name, Shin Nun Aleph. And I'm going to go a little deeper into some Kabbalah. This is from the Tanya. A couple of things I've mentioned so far are from also the Tanya, which is a book by the first of the Lubavitch Chabad rabbis, who was studying up under the Maggid of Mezrich, who Maggid means the speaker, and we say public speaker, motivational speaker, but he really used the power of his speech to inspire, to bring spirit into people and vitalize them and restore their hope. And also by telling them, stop deceiving yourself. He did something called Musar, stop deceiving yourself. So then they started infusing a more sweetness into it called Chasadim, which is like the mercy, the compassion. And so that's from where it kind of changed a little. That would be the Lubavitch Rebbe. They both, in their lineage, studied under somebody called the Baal Shem Tov, who is the master of the good word. And he spent a lot of time alone perfecting his thoughts, unifying himself, not deceiving, and a lot of times unifying in action, loving everybody, and a lot of times unifying in his words by speaking in such a way to bring light into his future and even into what the past was, speaking it out in such a way that the wholeness was more perfect than looking at just a part that may have seemed like something worth having self-pity for. And so now I'm going to get into this. There's 4 faces on the chariot, which is the source of all the birds. For example, there's the eagle, which is the source of all the birds' energy. Then there's the lion, which is the source of all the animals' energy. Then you have the ox, which is like the source. You have the man, which is the source of like the humanity. And then you have the ox, which is the source of all of the like the relationship between man and animal. So the hybrid, sort of like the domesticated. So the wild animals, domesticated animals, and birds, and humanity. Then they have the red heifer offering. This is like something that people didn't understand. Why did they slaughter this animal that had never worked? It had never had to escape its body for even a moment. It never had to say, this is hard, I would rather be somewhere else. It never had to go into the imagination. It was like a princess, kept very safe, very clean, very comfortable. And this draw down divine light, according to the tradition. And the food of the altar, the sacrifices, are the neutral shells. Therefore, times where we did things but kind of by mistake. We didn't really know we were deceiving ourselves. So here we see there's like different ways. There's sometimes like ways where we were deceiving ourselves because of our work. Then we see, and it's hard work, like our challenges are why we had to deceive ourselves. And then there was like the accidents. And then we see also like, and that's where the divine light is sent up. Then we see, there's Tala de Bedulcha and Kodesh Ha'elyon. So there's holiness sent up, and then there's a dew that comes down. And we can now bring this back to the feminine and masculine. There's the rise of it's called Mayim Nukvim, and it's like Ima, it's like mother, it's like sending up, which goes against like the weight of gravity. It literally rises up, and this draws down. It's such a strong section of yearning, elevating the void, being in the void, opening in the void, draws down what's called Mayim Duchmen, which is like Abba, which is like father. And this is Mochas Hatima of Arach Anpan. This is ancient wisdom. This is the life source energy. This is the supreme wisdom. This is the divine intelligence in every single piece that is perfected already. And in a way, the conduits for emanation to be in such a way that we're in the perfection and we get to see it without so much attachment. So this void, going in there and then using that liminal space to rise up and become more open and receive the perfection and the light of all life, is said to be like in this father-mother energy. If we're using the male-female, it's like when there's 13 tufts of a beard, is the life force, the divine mercy. There's 13 attributes. So this rising up, opening of the void, and then these 13 flowing streams of mercy, of all different aspects of the Creator's love and compassion and yielding and forgiving sin, and basically bringing us back to the oneness. So we open to the oneness, and then the oneness absorbs us, and we become unified in that feminine masculine aspect of the Creator, in the feminine masculine aspect of our parents, in the feminine masculine aspect of being liked by and liking ourselves, of letting go of the fear of the void, understanding others are in the void too, feeling the physical pains where we other ourselves, other our body, letting the silence in instead of letting the speech and the silence inform each other, letting the thoughts and the actions inform each other. And it's really letting go of the separate experience. Wishing you all releasing self-deception, going through the void and releasing the self-pity and finding that unification deep within and all around.